You just heard In This Empty Space from Tómaroom's brand new album, Ash in Realms of Stone Icons, available now via Prosthetic Records. And joining us from the band, hailing from Atlanta, Georgia, we have Kyle and Brandon from Tómarúm. Gentlemen, welcome to Posts of the Maggots. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. How about you, Brandon?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys are welcome, and it's absolutely our pleasure. Cori and I, big fans of the record, and definitely. I just want to ask, right? Because given the heavy topics of the record, and all this stuff that went into making it, how are you guys doing? You guys doing all right? Like, are you guys in a good spot right now?
I've been relatively pretty good. When you struggle with mental health and stuff like that, there's always good days and bad days. But no matter, compared to where I was when I was writing the record, I'm definitely in a lot better spot. And especially the past couple days, I've been very, very good.
Yeah, amazing to hear. What about you, man?
I'm doing great. The reception has been unbelievable, and everything else in my life is going really well, so I'm really, really grateful.
Yeah. Love to hear that. So let's dive in the album then real quick, right? I heard you guys say to a couple of different publications that this album was, quote, the ultimate catharsis after years of suffering. Kind of alluded to that a little bit as well. As best you can, because I know this, we could talk about this for hours probably, but as best you can you kind of put into words the journey that you all went through in making this album, 5 years in the making about, right? And I know it's been a struggle, but can you kind of put into words what that journey has been like for y'all?
So I initially started writing for this band in 2017. It initially was just going to be a solo project with hired guns, and then I was just going to put out an album and then just never do music again. And then I started really liking the songs I was writing, and then pulled together. I met Brandon probably six or so months into writing. I had maybe Condemned and Empty Space written at that point. I had met Brandon, and then we just he joined the band, and then we just kept writing. But it was the topics of the record, it goes back to when I was 12, 13, and just started struggling with mental health. So it's been kind of chronicling that entire journey from when I was little and starting to struggle to where I am currently at 24.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, you asked what was the process in terms of taking all those emotions and kind of putting it in the record. Is that kind of
how you experience this journey from creation to now?
Yeah, so I mean, a bit of history. I met Kyle through a mutual friend at the beginning of 2018, and then we quickly became really close, and found out we had similar music tastes. And so we just started he showed me the Tómarúm stuff, and I was we were in the car, and I was like, man, it'd be so sick if I could collaborate with you somehow, or help you out with this. He was like, well, you can join if you want. And so I just joined. And then we shared we shared stories of what we were going through and stuff. And mine definitely wasn't as heavy as Kyle's. It was a bit different. It was, this was more so a big part of his catharsis, but it was definitely an emotional process for me too. Soon after I went overseas to Japan for a couple of years to do some studies. And that was a really emotionally charged time with just so much different stuff going on. And then coming back, right into the pandemic, and then dealing with my own mental struggles, all of that kind of encapsulated, got poured into the recording process right when I got back. And so that's kind of how that process went. It was really emotionally charged while we were writing and finishing it up, and then letting it all out on the recording was really awesome process. So yeah.
Yeah, and you can hear that when you listen to it. I think we'll get into that later. Cori, I want you to step in and ask a question.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So we brought up the emotional aspect of writing everything, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the musical aspect of it all, because this is definitely, it's not basic black metal of what, if there is such a thing, that you've created. There's so many elements. There's melody. There's like almost like a cinematic kind of grand feel to each of the songs. And I wanted to know like where you pull your inspirations from to bring in those other elements to such a tortured genre to give it this grand feel to it.
Yeah. So my primary influence has always been Wolves in the Throne Room. They're just like, for me, just like the pinnacle of music is just like the emotional weight to like their chord progressions and just the atmosphere and the depth to all their songs. That's something that I've always been inspired by. And then like obviously like I really love bands like Inferi and Beyond Creation and Warforged and stuff like that. The more like progressive technical death metal that's not super mechanical sounding, it's like very expressive. I find that to be very inspirational. And then as far as the more cinematic stuff goes, I'm like a gigantic Kaladin Brood fanboy. So like I really wanted to incorporate some of those epic moments and kind of contrast a lot of the melancholy stuff with like a triumphant feel.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that you accomplish. Like you find such a great balance between the only way I can describe it is tortured, but the tortured sounds with the more cinematic, the grand, that like you said, triumphant feel to it. It's such a beautiful balance that you've found between the two.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback off that question, Cori?
Go for it. You.
Something that I was thinking, because I know y'all worked on this album for a really long time. I'm curious, just, it's hard asking, like, well, how did you create this work of art type of thing, right? But, like, when you were sitting down and writing this, were you able to kind of visualize these, epic long songs that you have, or kind of have an idea of where you wanted to go? Or were you sitting there, like, listening to the same riff or 2-minute passage over and over and over again, trying to be like, what the fuck comes next?
So for me, a lot of, especially at the early stages of the writing process, like I was hearing stuff in my head and this kind of like translating it. Like I was almost like imagining these songs and then just kind of like transcribing what I was hearing in my head. Towards the end, I kind of started getting to the point where it was like, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And I think that's where some of the more interesting stuff came in, like a lot of the technical influences that I like went back retroactively and incorporated into earlier songs on the record. So it was kind of a mix of just like stuff coming to me and then kind of racking my brain, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with the rest of the song?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that is both of it, because like when I was listening to it, like obviously, some of the techno bass solos, or when you do take in that, that origin and that Inferi influence to whatever you're doing. But then also, I mean, I've been listening to this album for a couple of weeks now, and every time I spin it, there is something new that I like pick out or that I hear, right? And there are some times where I'm like, that had to have been like visualized like as a whole type of, like an outline, I guess. And I don't know, just as someone interested in creative, talking to creative people, I was curious on your process of that. So amazing to hear.
Yeah, we also.
And I actually sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
I'll back off that and just say we wrote the record sequentially from like the beginning to the end, so that it kind of had that like. I wanted to make a record that had like a super cohesive listening experience where like you can listen to each song on the album and like each song is sick, but when you listen to it in one sitting front to back, it's like a whole like crazy experience. So like the first song I wrote for the band was Condemned to a Life of Grief, and then the last song that I wrote for the project was the closing track. So like, and I kind of wanted to like kind of up the prog influences as we went. So like, I'm sure you guys probably noticed that, but like every song on the record is like progressively crazier, and then it all culminates in that big epic ending. So I really wanted to have that where it has like almost kind of like the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, like resolution that you learned in like English class. I wanted to like have that in the work. Yeah.
Yeah, and Cori, before you ask the question that you were going to ask, I'll just say with a comment that I mean, I've listened to it like in bits and pieces here and there because of just like, I need to go back and listen to this song or this part. But in my opinion, man, the only way to listen to this album is front to back. Like, just clear an hour and just listen to the whole thing all the way through.
And that definitely like adds to the cinematic feel that I mentioned, where it does follow that natural story progression with the way that everything is structured. But one thing that I noticed that was like really interesting to me was that all of these songs you said were written prior to your previous EP, the one in 2020. So how did that come about, and how did things kind of evolve and change when you put out an album, and then now you're like, the normal process is to put out songs that you wrote after that other album, but you're putting out ones that you came up with before.
Yeah, so the album wasn't like completely done when we put out that EP. It was like almost there. What had happened with the EP was that our former bassist had written a song and like offered it up to the band, but it didn't really, and that was the song Crimson Severance, which was the second track off of our EP that came out before this. And it didn't really fit with the music that we were writing for this record, but we still wanted to put it out. So I just kind of like quickly wrote a song, which was the opening track, Throes of Life Forever Entwined. I wrote that like pretty quickly just to like complement the other song stylistically. And then we decided to just record, like put that out as an EP, basically to help build our fan base a little bit and give us more time to like perfect the record, so that when we did drop it, it would when we did drop the record, it would have like a wider audience, basically. So we'd be more prepared to like put out like a full body of work and it actually like be heard.
Yeah, and that was definitely a extremely smart move, because isn't that how you got on the radar of Prosthetic?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent move.
Look at that. And I'll say too, it was interesting because I listened to the EP after I heard the first single that Prosthetic put out. I went back and was like, wow, this is really good. And holy shit, this first single is even better than that. So like, let's fucking go. Cori, do you have anything as far as on the sound, anything, or I want to transition?
You can go ahead and you can transition.
Okay, let's do that. Because as you guys have already talked about, right, you guys are very open and honest when talking about your mental health struggles and mental health in general, which is super refreshing and good to hear because of the stigma that is still attached to mental health issues, which we're getting better. We're getting better as time goes on. But I'm curious, is like when you guys were putting this together, were you ever like worried, scared, or nervous that people might read into things the wrong way or have like negative thoughts about like, wow, they are really getting just the nitty gritty and the absolute like truth and honesty of what they're saying? Were you ever scared about any like blowback or pushback from that?
I wasn't necessarily scared about like pushback. It's definitely something that I thought about. Like people might read into these, and it, if they're going through something, it might make them feel like a little bit worse or something. Yeah. But like on the flip side of that, like I feel like I definitely had to be honest with myself when I was writing the lyrics. Like if I didn't do that, then it just wouldn't have come across as like authentic. And like to me, honestly, like I feel like it makes it more relatable. Because like if there's somebody out there that's listening to this record that they may be going through similar stuff and don't know anybody that goes through that stuff, and think like, hey, these guys are going through it, and look what they were able to like create out of that. Yeah. And maybe like find some catharsis from listening to it like we got from making it, but like also maybe find some inspiration of like, what could I take all this like suffering and like how could I do something productive with that? How could I like take it and like get something positive out of it?
And that's the key right there too, with part of like any like depressive, suicidal black metal or anything, right? I mean, you would rather the artist put that out on the page and turn that into music rather than doing something less productive or harmful to themselves or others. So I think it's ridiculously refreshing, and I agree with you, man. Like it wouldn't have been the same if you weren't completely honest with with yourself and with the listeners and everything like that, and saying like, I went through this shit. This is the stuff that was in my brain, and here you go. And it makes it more relatable and more genuine.
And I think I was going to say, I think it's also like a testament to how successful this album has been, is because people really can tell the difference between when somebody is being authentic to when somebody is being a character. And the authenticity definitely translates so well because you can tell just how passionate you are in what you're creating and the pure raw emotion that fueled that passion.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I definitely wanted to like take all those emotions that I was feeling and almost like I wanted to, like, for me, like, this record was almost a process of like overcoming that and just like completely claiming that and being like, even though I have these struggles, I look what I can take all these negatives that have happened to me and I can turn it into a positive. And like, I think the reception to the record is showing that I definitely made that happen. So it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Cori, I have a question about art, unless you had anything.
I have a question about art, so you can lead the way, and I will follow up.
All right, cool.
Boom.
I just want to know what it was like working with Marish Lewandowski, right? Like, legendary artist in the metal field. The artwork is like one of those things that it complements the music so well, because you're like, holy fuck, it just pops right off the page, and then it works with the music. What was that process like for you?
It was really expensive. First off.
Yeah. So what Kyle said, yeah, it was pretty expensive, but honestly, like, worth it. And like, he definitely deserves all like the cash in his pockets, because like his stuff is absolutely insane. I think the way that started was we were kind of like, we had like, obviously I think we had written the whole album at that point. And just to like, also I want to add, like, I don't know if this was put in like other publications or whatever, but I actually only wrote like 2 or so riffs on that whole thing. So Kyle actually wrote most of the record. I did help with like some layering here and there. I wrote a couple riffs, but just wanted to mention that in terms of like that creative process. But in terms of like the art, that had all been finished, I believe. And then we were kind of sitting down and we were like, okay, like, what kind of vibe do we want to have? Because like, this is such a grand record. Like, we obviously want to nail the art. And so I think I had mentioned to Kyle, well, we have to pick like a color scheme first. And so we both mutually like agreed on like grays and blues and blacks and stuff like that. And then we had to like start thinking of a theme and stuff like that. And we just started throwing around, you know, like lyric ideas that were, or like he started giving me like lyrics and stuff like that. And we started thinking like, well, what if like that lyric was represented this way? Like Stone Icons is like that like V-shaped like wall thing in the back with that reaper in the back.
Yeah,
like
like
that
mountain of souls and all that.
Yeah. And then there's like, you know, whirling typhoons of like souls, and it's just like the ash is like, you know, the spirit, like the ashen spirit rising from that sepulcher on that cliff, and it's meant to like, you know, signify like solitude, like, and stuff like that. And we essentially like, I think we drew a sketch. Did we draw a sketch?
Yeah, we drew a really, really terrible sketch with like stick figures and gave him like a bulleted list of notes, and then he created that and just like fucking nailed it.
Yeah. So we gave him the color palette, and then like kind of we had come up with those ideas from like the lyrics and like kind of what we wanted to express. And his art is already like naturally extremely detailed, and like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like one really cool thing that I always tell people is if you flip to the back of like either the LP or CD or like the other side of the art, you can actually see on the top left like big blue like brush strokes, and it's like so cool. It's seriously so beautiful. So we wanted to encapsulate like all that emotion into a really complicated piece, and I mean, you just look at the brush strokes and he nailed it. Yeah.
And you guys actually answered my follow-up question already, so I don't actually have another follow-up, but I should tell people that when you do, because you're going to, when you buy this album, you really do need to take a minute to actually look at all of the artwork, because it takes it a while. Like, it took me a while to actually realize all the different elements that went into it, like the 2 mountains of souls. It's like, oh no, that's not fog. Those are disembodied spirits. And then you got the, you know, hidden element, like the Reaper in the middle, that doesn't always like, or that doesn't jump out right away. So people, when you buy this album, definitely take a minute and spend it with the artwork, because there are just so many elements, and just hearing how you guys incorporated all of the lyrics into all these different pieces, it really translates so well, because there's just so many hidden little things going on.
Yeah, just the ability to, with like, I'm guessing it was probably like 2 freaking like wrist flicks to make that Grim Reaper in the background there, where it's so subtle yet so impactful. I don't know, guys. Just Mariusz is a fucking genius. It's so good. I'm glad that you guys were able to do that, even if your wallets are a little bit lighter for it. I think it was well worth it.
Yeah, we saved up for a while to make. We spent a lot making the record, but we saved up for a while to make it happen. Because I was like going into it, I was like, no timeline, no budget. We are going to do whatever it takes to make this thing perfect.
We wanted to really like. The reason why it also took so long is because like we thought of it beforehand. Like we absolutely, of course, want to make sure the music is like complete in the way that we want to see, the way that we saw it. But like for us personally, art is extremely important, and like it's what I've always been the kind of guy. When I see art, that's what grabs me first. If I see art that's like super sick, I want to check that stuff out. And we early on were like, we got to make sure that the art is like super sick. And so we were totally okay with saving up a bit more and waiting a bit, and then getting that super sick artwork.
Last one for me, Cori, before you can jump in with your last question. Just kind of came to the top of my head while you guys were talking about that, because Kyle, I think you mentioned here or there that there are plans in the works for follow-ups, and you guys are already starting working on that. I don't want to ask about that right now because, goddammit, the album just fucking came out on
Ask
Friday,
about it, no.
And we still need some people to sit with it for a little while, because one weekend is not, you aren't going to absorb everything at that album in one weekend. But as far as like the process of your debut album's out, and now you have whatever time you have to do the next one, like how are you feeling about following up this thing that you have been working on for a good chunk of your life? Like how are you feeling about what's coming next?
I feel really good about what's coming next. I think like we already have like half an hour or so of new material written, so we're like pretty deep into the writing process for the next record. And this one, we've got a full lineup again. We're a 5-piece. We've got a third guitarist and everything. So it's been like fully collaborative this time, so that's resulting in a lot more diverse record. So it's got like the black metal and the tech death and everything, but it's got more than just like what you heard on Ash. So we're feeling really good about our follow-up. I think the reception that we've been getting, it makes me want to like push even harder, because like I want us to be one of those bands that's like consistently evolving and consistently getting better.
Yeah.
So like I feel like we set a pretty high bar for us to live up to for the next record, but that just makes me want to work even harder and make the next record even better. So I'm feeling good, but it's also like we worked super hard, but the real work is just beginning.
Yeah, well, make sure to take some time to just enjoy what you've got too as well. I know you guys are going on tour in a second. We'll talk about that after Cori's question, but definitely make sure to bask in what you guys have done over the past couple of years, guys. I mean, you fucking earned it. You deserve it.
Thank you.
I was actually going to ask about tour, so if you have a tour question, go ahead and ask.
No, I was just going to give people the details and everything like that. Do your thing, Cori. I'll sit back while you ask the last two questions.
Okay, cool. All right, so it is the most important question that I ever ask in any interview. Super career-defining moment right here. What is your favorite dinosaur?
Dinosaur?
Yeah.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your favorite dinosaur?
Mine right off the bat. I can give you mine.
Okay.
What's that one with the super like giga neck that eats plants?
The Diplodocus. It used to be called the Brontosaurus or Brachiosaurus. Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. Like they seem, like, I'm sure they're like vicious as hell, but like they seem so like chill and cool. And that's why like I love like I don't know, long necks are like that's just insane to me that can like
long
even
necks. There's a
right,
Land Before Time reference, everybody.
Yeah, that's crazy. But
yeah.
It's just like I don't know. They seem like really chill. They have these like giant necks with like chill up top, So
Excellent
cool.
choice. So team long necks over here.
Cori.
And yours was the same, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Didn't know the name,
right.
so I was just gonna say the one with the big neck.
Honestly, man, you could like literally just like draw a stick figure of a dinosaur, and Cori would probably understand what you were trying to say.
Yeah, I have a mild obsession. I'm obsessed with two things: dinosaurs and black metal. So this is a great interview for me.
Awesome.
All right, wrapping everything up, y'all are going to be hitting the road on a small little East Coast tour with label mates Dawn of Ouroboros, who also a fantastic band. It's going to be a hell of a show. I'm sad to say that I'm just going to miss you guys in D.C. By like 2 or 3 days. I'm flying to the UK like 3 days before that. As you get out and as people listen to this record and as they spin it and listen to it, what do you want people to take away from Ash in Realms of Stone Icons?
I want people to get the same like catharsis that we got out of making it when they listen to it. Like I want people to listen to it and be like, you know, these riffs are fucking sick. Like this is crazy. But I also want people to feel that same emotion that we put into it, because I know for me, when I listen to like super emotionally charged music, it's almost therapeutic. I would love for people to get the same feeling. I would like for people to listen to it and be able to, if somebody's going through a rough time, be able to like put the record on and get some kind of like calming sense from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. Like, it's a couple things. I want to inspire like those who have inspired me. One of the reasons why I do this is because I have like absolute like heroes in music, and I want to inspire and, you know, be that source of positivity for other people if I can. Another thing is, you know, you're like, if people listen to the record, I hope that they can feel the sense that they're not alone, and that soak in the epic riffs and triumph. Just push. You know, you're not alone. Push through it.
Fuck yeah.
Excellent.
Words of wisdom, and we will leave it there. Everybody, Ash in Realms of Stone Icons is out now. Kyle, Brandon, I usually keep some of this close to the vest, but considering the shit that y'all went through to create this, I can't speak for Cori. In my opinion, man, this is one of the best records I've heard this year, and I'm sure that we're going to be talking about it towards the end of the year. It is like, I was telling Cori about this before you guys got on. It's hard for an album to be over an hour long and the last track on it be 15 minutes long, and when I'm done with that, I'm like, well, I'm gonna listen to that again because like I have to. So congrats guys on the record.
Thank you so much.
No, and I do agree with you. Definitely one of the best records that's come out of this year. I literally bought the record after listening to like 45 seconds of the first single. I'm like, no, I'm good. I need to buy this.
She pre-orders records on the show all the time, y'all. So
yeah. And the only reason I didn't pre-order this record while in the stream was I had already pre-ordered it prior to the stream. But yeah, definitely congrats guys on everything that you've accomplished. This is absolutely a stunning, stunning album. And it is definitely difficult to hold somebody's attention for over an hour. But like John said, it's one of those ones that it's like, okay, time to flip it back over and listen to it again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, this has been Kyle and Brandon, who are now visibly uncomfortable from all of the praise. Their new album is out right now. Go pick it up. It's so fucking good. Y'all, it was so good to have you.
I'm watching all of you.
Yeah, it was so good to have you on the show, y'all.
Thank you so much for having us.
No problem. You guys could just close out of the browser or whatever you're done. Hey, be safe on tour. Enjoy, and congrats again, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, y'all.